Hello, this is Anna Imagination with the Healing Garden, and welcome to Subconscious Dialogues. So, this is just me going, I'm burnt out, and I just need to chill and sit and think for a while. I did not sleep well last night. I was up until like 11 o'clock, and then I woke up at 3 and I did 2 hours of work at 3 a.m. this morning. I went back to bed at 5, and then I was awakened at 7 a.m. So, I am like on 4 hours of sleep, and I am just tired. I've finally had this massive breakdown of all of Triadic Healing. It was not a simple endeavor. It was like I vomited my brain onto paper. And it's done. It's the syllabus that I have over at on the Healing Gardens website under Triadic Healing. And I had this beautiful outline and I lost it. And this beautiful outline is something I wrote up back in July, earlier, I think. And it was so beautiful, so well articulated. It was everything I needed. And I can't find it. So I spent the week trying to locate it, trying to recreate it. And what I ended up doing was literally just vomiting my brain back onto paper. And what I made for myself was this giant mess that is the syllabus part one. And I'm like, well, at least my thoughts are all there so I can now organize it. And I have been struggling trying to figure out how to organize it since day one. I had it all figured out until I discovered perspective psychology 2 months ago. As soon as I realized perspective psychology, well, not perspective psychology, spiral dynamics from Dr. Graves, and I could see the overlap, oh my God, this is beautiful. And I was able to plug it in. I suddenly went, well, where does this fit into Triadic Healing? And it's been very, very difficult to try and figure out where perspective psychology clicks into Triadic Healing. And I think I finally figured it out, but I could not find this outline that I did to just bring it up and then plug it in. So I had to start everything from scratch. And I've been playing around with that for a week now. And it's just the more I play around with it, the more of a mess I made of it. So last night I did some manifestation, and at 3 a.m. it finally came to me. And it's like whenever you have an outline that's just this massive combobulation of just garbage. I don't know if combobulation is a word. We'll figure that out. But what I noticed was, this is me looking up combobulation. It is a word. Combobulation means to compose, organize. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. All right, excellent. So this combobulation. I love that word. I don't know where I heard it. So I had this massive combobulation, and I'm just like, what am I going to do with this mess? And I remembered every time you have something like that, condense it even further. Like span out, get a larger perspective, and then outline it even more vaguely. It's weird, but the answer to disorganization is more vagueness. It's true. So I was more vague, and I basically said, okay, instead of trying to analyze each and every little point, we're going to go bigger, be more vague, and just say, what are the 12 steps to Triadic Healing? Now, that was easy. That was like, oh, self-care. Basically, it's an introduction, and then it's self-care, and then it's emotional management, and then it's what I call demystifying the subconscious mind. And before you can demystify the subconscious mind, you need to go over perspective psychology. So I was able to just plug it right in there. And then after that, I was able to go, okay, then there's the shadow work section. And then there's the knowing, the belonging, and the authority, which is the bringing everything together. And from there, I was able to break it down even further. And I was able to like condense it, or not condense it, but then expand it. And that's when it all clicked together. So I did all of that this morning for 2 hours. And then I scheduled all of the videos that will absolutely supplement all of those lessons so that I now have the corresponding videos for week 1 started. And my goal today was to jump in at 7 a.m. and just start recording. I got 2 or 3 videos in, and then I just burnt out. I ate, I had some more coffee, and I can still feel my cognitive function is just low today. That's all this is. My cognitive function is low. And I went, okay, because my cognitive function is low, I can't do these videos. And I was feeling it in the last video that I did. I was stuttering. I was I was not articulate, and I'm like, I am too low functioning to do this. I am just did not get enough sleep. So I decided to just postpone it. I did a lot, and I need to acknowledge that. I did a lot. I've got it condensed. I've got it all outlined so I can finally start going through and I can record it. So the syllabus currently is a mess. And I have this beautiful bracket where it's like everything here and down is on as chaos. Everything up is done. So if you get to the syllabus, there's this beautiful introduction, and then you get to what cognitive dissonance is, which is really, really important. We're going to talk a lot about cognitive dissonance. And then underneath that is the outline and then the full syllabus. And that is going to be when we go through Triadic Healing, that's everything. So as I record the videos, they have to be recorded in order and it's all going to be uploaded. And I will be doing this all week. So shifting perspectives is really where I theorize concepts. It's my new shit. It's my new, hey, I got this idea. Triadic Healing is when I've already got the idea and it's so solid. It's so simple that it's inarguable. And that's it. When something is right, I love you, Sir Isaac Newton. When something is right, it's simple. And it is so, so articulate and so condensed that it's inarguable. It's to the point where when I deliver perspective psychology now or anything on Triadic Healing, it is so precise and so logical that it's undeniable. And when it gets to that point, that's when it graduates to Triadic Healing. So I have all the shit that happens in my brain. And then I have, which is subconscious dialogues. Everything starts with subconscious dialogues. This is where I just chill and I think and I hypothesize. And then I examine, explore, research in shifting perspectives. And then once it checks out consistently, I move it over to Triadic Healing. So that's the progress for my research department. And what I put out there for people is the stuff that's tested and true. So the stuff in subconscious dialogues, take with a grain of salt. You can come in and watch my brainstorming, but this is really just me chilling and thinking. And in most cases, I'm high in this space, which is fine. I'm just chilling and thinking. Shifting perspectives, I'm hypothesizing. I'm taking information that I hypothesized in subconscious dialogues, and I'm translating over there to see how that goes. So it's a lot, and it's nice to finally have it done and have it condensed. So it's now consistently, and now I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing research, I'm doing podcasts, I'm doing workshops, I'm doing public speaking now and Triadic Healing. And as I deliver, and I've also started doing consultations and sessions. I am available for sessions, but my sessions are, it's Triadic Healing one-on-one, and it's $500 a session. That's really what it is. And you don't get to do like just one session and that's it. I don't do that. I do like, all right, if you want to work with me, we're going to do this monthly until it's done. And it's about $2,000 a month. And that's literally just to sit down and do consultations. But it comes with weekly consultations. It's all the classes, it's all the Triadic Healing, and it's handheld one-on-one. And it's whatever trauma you want to go over. And I only work with a select few people. Like I only do 3 clients a month. I might increase that to 5. But so what I offer now is just DIY Triadic Healing so that you can go and do what you need with Triadic Healing. And if you want additional help without going the one-on-one route, you can jump into the Journey into the Self integration workshop and become a member. So that way you have access to the weekly Q&A, the weekly sessions, the weekly workshops, and all the classes that you'll need with the troubleshooting. And it's 6:00 at night on Thursday nights. And you can just jump right in and join the conversation, or just, it's fantastic if you love debate. It's fantastic if you are a philosopher. It is fantastic for anybody who needs the hand holding the Q&A and that extra oomph. It's a beautiful space for that. And yeah, I absolutely love that area. So it all just kind of clicked. It really just clicked into place today. And I sat down to start doing the Triadic Healing workshops, like the actual classes to go through it. And I just, like I said, I'm burnt out and I just need to rest. And it is Sunday. Like I don't actually take a day off. I used to take Wednesdays and Sundays and Saturdays, but now I'm getting to a point where until Triadic Healing is done, I'm not going to take a break. And I need to, and I just need to listen to my body. So, and I'm also doing this other project called The World of Make Believe. Oh my God, do I love it. And it's basically a story walkthrough of Triadic Healing with imagination. And it's fantastic if you'll see. It's already on my website and I've already started it, and it's going to be literally a full walkthrough. It's all going to be written out. There's not going to be any video, and it's to accommodate a different kind of learner. So there's going to be 3 types of learning styles accommodated on the Healing Garden. There's going to be the DIY, there's going to be the one-on-one coaching, and then there's going to be this make believe for people who do better with the visualization and the imagination. And it's also going to be almost teenager and preteen friendly. It's really, really geared toward teenager and preteen friendly. Anyone who has a knack for fantasy or imagination will really gravitate toward the make believe version of it. So it's literally Triadic Healing for make believe, where instead of giving you dry lessons like this, instead of sitting down and doing all the semantic garbage, I completely abandon the psychobabble. And I take you by the hand, pull you into a fantasy fiction realm, and I walk you through the process. But I do it through imagination and play. So I really, I'm loving how that's going, but I could definitely feel it. I need to do a self-care day. And it was a very productive week. It started off with a workshop that resulted in clients coming in. So now the garden is starting to, like, clients are coming in. And then I was able to get 2 additional things. I'm flabbergasted. Like, it's my abundance is starting to, not even starting, it started 2 weeks ago. And now it's flowing in, and all the shit I've manifested is coming together. And I was able to have some personal realizations with my own relationship. That put a lot of things in perspective. I learned more, and I'm trying to figure out how to take this very personal. I think I just need a safe place to just talk about my relationship development, because what I have here is extraordinary and I want to document it, but it's 100% personal, and it's just focusing on my concept, my theory of relationship, my relationship theory. And technically, maybe I should do that here in Subconscious Dialogues, because that's what Subconscious Dialogues is for. It's where it's my lounge. It is Anna's lounge, and I can talk about whatever I want. So yeah, I think I will. So basically, when we have a partner, there's this expectation that we have to agree on a single perspective between the 2 of us. What's the perspective going to be, we say, when we start a relationship? And we pull from the patriarchy, we pull from tradition, and we pull from what our parents did, parental example, and we pull from societal example, and we pull from our culture. And we also pull from parental expectations. And we pull all of these things together. So we have the terminology we use, we have the labels we use, we have the expectations we use, and we mimic what we saw as children. And we piecemeal this hodgepodge together, and we call that a relationship. And there's one rule: we must agree on the definitions. Now, the problem with this, and it must be monogamous. That's the other rule that we're all told for the most part. It must be monogamous. There must be loyalty. There must be exclusivity. There must be commitment. And there must be the agreed, defined labels. Now, the problem is, yeah, I don't do any of that shit, and neither does my partner. So, but we both of us were very new to healthy relationships. We'd never had a relationship before. We'd never had a healthy one. I certainly never had anything that I would even liken to a relationship now that I'm where I am in my stage of growth and I'm looking back at what abominations I did have. And I'm like, okay, those were not relationships. They were too toxic to even label as a relationship. So now I'm looking at what he and I had put together, and it was very much a hodgepodge of us not knowing what we were doing. So we just copied what we saw on television. We copied what the culture demanded we do. We copied all of these patriarchies, the traditions, the parental examples, the culture, the societal examples, and we threw it all together. And it did not do either one of us any favors. It made us both miserable. We felt trapped. We felt lousy. It was not authentic. And it just wasn't us. So we broke up with the relationship. That is the best way to explain that. We didn't break up. We broke up with the relationship. We threw the relationship out. And he and I remained these independent individual people side by side going, okay, well, we tried that. That didn't work. Well, now what do we do? And we went, well, I don't know. What can we do? Like, we don't have anything. We are officially on undefined, unfamiliar territory. Now what do we do? So there was a lot of confusion. And there was still this concept that we had to agree on the definition of the labels. So there was a period of negotiation. He said, well, we're broken up. And I went, that doesn't feel right to me. This does not look, it does not feel like we've broken up. That it doesn't resonate with me. That's against my frequency. And I felt like we were still conforming to these agreed definitions. And we got about 9 to 10 months into it when it really hit us that our friends started referring to both he and I as each other's exes. And that I'm like, no, that's not it. That's not it. That is so, I do not consent to that label. That is not. And it was this last week, it was this sudden realization of 2 days ago or yesterday morning, I had this realization of there's a relationship here. And there is. And he's like, there's something here. Yeah, it's a thing. It's like it's an energy relationship. And it is stable, it is solid, it is there. But here's what it is. And I said this to him, we don't have to agree on the definition because we have two different perspectives. My perspective is this. I said, now your perspective is over there. And I said, when we both decided to try this relationship and take on these exact definitions, it hurt us both. And then he said, this is going to be the relationship for him. And then he said, this is what the relationship is. And I'm like, well, that's might be what it is for you, but that's not what the relationship is for me. And I've been stuck between the societal label of you're broken up and what he's defining it to be. And neither one of them fit me. Neither one of them feel right. And I realized it's because in my mind, I have a completely different experience, a completely different relationship. And I was finally able to sit down and say to him, this is my perspective. And in my perspective, this is what we have. And I can't force my perspective onto you any more than you can force your perspective of the relationship onto me. Maybe for you, it's defined as X, but for me, it's defined as Y. So our relationship is actually something called XY. That's what our relationship is. Now, according to the patriarchy, you can have a relationship that's A, or you can have a relationship that's B. And A is in the relationship, B is broken up. But that's not it at all, because we go by X and Y, which are completely off the charts and have nothing to do with A and B. And then when you break up, you both agree that it's B. And when you're together, you both agree that it's A. But that's not at all how he and I function. So he lives by X and I live by Y. And X is his definition of poly loving living, and Y is my definition of poly loving living, and they are not identical. They're not the same. And I realized that the only compatibility really in any relationship is so long as you agree to not agree and you honor and respect the experience of the other person, it's kind of moot as long as you agree to live simultaneously with the differences. And that's really it is a an agreement to be different rather than agreeing to be same. He and I have agreed to be different. So for me, he's my primary. It's not negotiable. And I, to be true to my authentic self, have to treat him like my primary. I have to live accordingly. So we are half a couple. Now for him, he doesn't use any of those terminologies. He's like, no, this is, I need my freedoms and I need my autonomy. And I'm like, that's fine, respect. And I'm huge on, and this is it right here. There is love, which is defined. And then there's the relationship, which is defined. And then there's the boundaries, which is defined. And these three things are 100% independent from each other. Whereas in a patriarchal relationship, the love, the relationship, and the boundaries are all one and the same, and they are merged with defined knowns and agreed expectations and 100% matched. Now that is inflexible, intolerable, and leaves no room for growth. It's rigid, and that's just it. That is a rigid relationship structure. And I cannot function with that, neither can he. So we found this other place where love exists separate, relationships exist separate, and the boundaries exist separate. And it's the boundaries that determine our interaction with each other, what physically and verbally is and is not allowed to be said or to be done. And that's what matters. I can call the relationship whatever I want for me. He can call it whatever he wants for him. The boundaries is where we respect each other, where he says, I'm not comfortable with X. And I say, okay, well, this is where I am and we're okay. The boundaries must be like respected. I don't get to tell him what his boundary is. He doesn't get to tell me what my boundary is. It's us matching up our comfort zones. And then we have these relationships defined in our heads, and I have it defined in my head one way, he has it defined in his head another way. We're both aware of how it's defined, and we're compatible and comfortable with those differences. And then we love each other. He loves me one way, I love him this way, and it's that simple. So we are literally half a couple. It's really different, but it is 100% flexible, 100%. What's the opposite of not rigid? It's just fluid. I guess that's the right word for it. It is very, very fluid. And as a result, we have all this room to move, all this room to change. I can grow however I need, and it's not going to alter anything with him. And same thing with him. He can move and grow and be whatever he needs without it affecting me. Because at the end of the day, it's an understanding that these are the boundaries, and the boundaries are not going to change based on the love of the relationship. The relationship is independent. The love is independent. And the boundaries are independent. Whereas in the rigid, traditional definition of relationships, the love, the relationships, and the boundaries are all 100% dependent. In fact, they are codependent on each other. And what ends up happening is significant amount of perspective abuse that now causes significant amount of cognitive dissonance mentally between all of the different pieces, because now somebody is being forced to conform or compromise to a love style, a relationship style, or a boundary style that doesn't feel good or suit them. So they are literally in a relationship bound to something that is constantly violating their comfort zone and their boundaries. Whereas what he and I have defined is something that is independent with love. So love can exist and go all over the place. However, it's going to flex. And it's not going to change the relationship status between the two of us, because how I feel is separate from my relationship with him, and vice versa. Likewise, we have these beautiful boundaries where we are both now completely free and independent to move, grow, flex however we need without it affecting our harmony together. So we found a way to completely coexist in this beautiful harmony. The only problem we have is how to explain this to our mutual friends. Like, that is the only problem we have, is how to communicate this to our friends. So I really want to say we have an entirely independent, independently defined relationship where love, the feeling or the love style, the defined relationship, and the boundaries are all independent of each other. So for me, he's 100% my primary. And finally, and I could feel it happening, it was beautiful. The cognitive dissonance is gone. The constant conflict of, oh my God, I don't understand what this is. I don't understand, because I'm not trying to conform my relationship definition into what he needs. I'm not being forced to conform to him, and he's no longer being forced to conform to me. The boundaries are personal. I've got my boundaries, he's got his. And those boundaries are what makes this possible. Without the boundaries, this would not work. So he's got his boundaries, I have mine, and we have this beautiful thing where we can sit there and I can have the relationship I need with him. So I have my dream relationship. I am living my dream relationship. Likewise, he is living his dream relationship because it is completely independent and it's exactly what he needs it to be for him in his mind. So we found a way to literally love, exist, have a relationship, and have boundaries side by side, completely interdependent, and in such a way that it's completely compatible. And it always will be, because there's always room for growth, always room for movement. It's ideal. There are zero expectations in this relationship. Zero. There has to be. And expectations are like fucking evil. Rules and expectations are actual perspective abuse. When you have an expectation of somebody, you're actually putting you're projecting your insecurity onto another person. So expectations and rules are absolutely, they're toxic. Absolutely toxic. But it gives him the space he needs to live, love, grow, be the way he needs for himself right now, without any kind of worry about where I am. Vice versa, I have the ability to love, function, do whatever I need without it interfering with him. And now we are completely and totally interdependent while existing side by side. And it's this beautiful, like, safe space. So, and it's ideal, because I'm always huge on, I wanted us to both have our ideal and dream relationship with each other, and this is it. It's perfect. So he's got whatever he needs, and I've now got whatever I need, and they're not interfering with each other. I can have my needs, not even my needs, but I can have my perspective. I'm allowed to have my perspective now. And because I put the boundary of, look, this is my perspective. And you don't have the right to tell me what my perspective is any more than I can tell you what your perspective is. That's what I wanted to say. We have found a way to love with separate perspectives. And that's really it. When we are in a relationship, traditionally, there is an expectation that you are not allowed to have differing perspectives. And that's it. You're not allowed to have differing perspectives. That's it. When you decide to have a traditional relationship, you are ultimately agreeing to have the same perspective. That, oh, we have to agree and have the same perspective. Suddenly, misunderstanding is vital, or I'm sorry, understanding is vital to the health and safety and security of your relationship. Now, he and I still have that. We do have our shared perspective. Polyamory, every time you have two people in a polyamory situation, you have a shared perspective between the two of you. And that is the coming together of the understanding where you both see eye to eye. You have a shared perspective. So he and I have a shared perspective. That is, in essence, a relationship. It is when you share a perspective with somebody. 100%. This is making me very happy. Whenever you have a relationship with anyone, you are sharing the perspective with them. And one of the things that he and I share is the understanding that I have my perspective and he has his. So he is my primary, and I understand that I might not be his, and that's okay. I understand that right now he's not in a good place for any of this. That's fine. I'm going to keep it off of him. I'm not ever going to put my perspective on him ever again. And if he changes, when he grows and he evolves, he can mold and shape into whatever he needs. And that's not going to affect my status because I've made up my mind and I know what I want and I'm solid with that. So I have the freedom now to be solid in my decision. And I am respecting my perspective while he is on walkabout and he's trying to define and find himself. So while he's out trying to figure himself out, I'm solid. So it's like I said, okay, I've got my shit figured out and I'm here and this is where I'm at and I'm stable and all's good. And he's over there with his and he's like, I can't give you anything. And I'm like, I don't need you to give me anything. I've got everything I need over here. I have my solid, defined understanding of what you are to me, who you are to me, and I'm good. I don't need you to believe it. I don't need you to own it, to possess it, to be involved in it. I don't need that. We still have the shared perspective of how we feel about each other, what we share together, what the relationship is together. We still have that shared perspective. And we also, between the two of us, have our own private perspective. My perspective is that he is my primary, and we share this, and that I love him the way I love him. I have my love style, I have my lifestyle, and it's completely solid and respected, and it's preserved. Likewise, he's got all the freedom he needs to grow, move, shape, figure shit out, and he's got all the time in the world to do that. So now he has no pressure. He has no interference from me. He has no expectations that he has to meet. I have no needs that I need fulfilled by anybody else because I don't project my needs onto other people. So I don't use people for prosthetics. So there's nothing that I need that I have to get somebody else for to supplement. I'm perfectly fine because I am that solid and whole and independent on myself. I also understand my limitations where I say, okay, this is the part where I hire someone, bring somebody in to do job X for me because this is my limitation. And I know what I can and I can't do. I have friends, I have my own lifestyle, I have my own things happening, and I have my privacy. He has his. And at the same time, when we decide to come together for our shared perspective, we have that beautiful, beautiful, precious bond that he and I share. And that shared perspective is so unique that no matter who he's with or what we're doing, vice versa, it does not interfere, change at all the status of our shared perspective. Now, and this is unlike a traditional relationship, our shared perspective, because our shared perspective is combined, is basically the merging together of two different perspectives. And it's not the merging, it's the coexistence. And that's really it. We're coexisting, we're not merging. In traditional relationships, you merge until both of you are consumed by the other in a parasitic relationship so that you don't know who you are anymore. That is not what we're doing. We are not merging. We are coexisting. That's what we're doing. That's the difference between interdependent and codependent. Independent is the extreme where you are single alone and there is no one else. Interdependent is when you are independent individually next to each other side by side. Now you're coexisting. So that's really it. We're coexisting without merging. And when we coexist, we come together in this beautiful shared perspective. And we have our defined boundaries. Mine are here, his are here, and we could sit down and start comparing it. The problem, and it really isn't a problem, but this is really the crux of it, is we're both very whimsical. And when you live by your intuition and your whim, if the energy says, you go. And that suddenly opens this door for anything can happen. It depends upon how tolerant your partner is, though. And that's just it. If you are with an intolerant person, that's not going to leave any room for your whim. If you are in a merging relationship where you have agreed on a shared perspective, you are literally limiting and shutting down your whim. You are shutting down your intuition. And I value my intuition. I value my whim. He values his intuition. He values his whim. We both value each other's whims. We both prioritize individual autonomy and freedom above all else. So when we sit down and we come together in a relationship now, it's how are we going to balance the whim and the intuition with this relationship? And this is literally the only model of a relationship that allows it. So how does this relate to you? If you seek an authentic life, you need to find somebody who's highly tolerant of your authentic whim. Now, if you are not a whimsical person, monogamy in a traditional relationship might work for you. But if you are whimsical and if you are highly intuitive and you are all over the map, then now you're looking at how do you have a relationship that's going to allow for that while giving you what you emotionally desire from a relationship. And this is the working model we've come up with, where it's coexisting so that we are allowed to have our separate perspectives. So now I can be a perspective 10, he can be perspective 9, 10, whatever. If he grows and goes on to perspective 11 and 12, I can sit here where I am and be like, okay, well, I'm at a 10 and there's not going to be a perspective gap. This literally eliminates the perspective gap. Whereas with a monogamous merged relationship, you have to evolve at the same pace, grow at the same pace, and not change your core identity of who you are as you go through these changes. It is an intolerable, highly inflexible model, the traditional relationship is with monogamy. Whereas this allows for the freedom, the movement, the flexibility of everything you need, all condensed in the fact that these two people coexist without merging side by side with the full understanding and respect that you have your perspective and I have mine. I don't want to merge my perspective with yours. I want to coexist my perspective with yours. I want to continue to share the perspective that we have and let that perspective be our safe space, our happy place, our coming together of place. So we have three perspectives between us. Whereas with a traditional relationship, you have one perspective between the two of you. In this model, you have three perspectives. So he has his perspective, I have mine, and then we have our shared perspective. That's the difference. That is absolutely the difference. And in order to pull this off, you have to be so fucking defined in your identity and your security. There's no negotiation. It requires solid security, solid defined self. And you have to be like so complete and having all the pieces and the parts together. That's really it. So yeah, I am not sure yet what I'm going to call this model. This is very much going to go toward Triadic Healing Part 2 with relationships and how all that comes together. Yeah, this is something else. I have to call this something. I love the naming part. The naming parts are my favorite parts. What should I name this? Oh, what should I name this thing? This is the fun part, and I gotta come up with a name. What should I call it? I want to say it's something like perspective relationships, triadic relationships. We have a triadic relationship because there is three parts here. It's a triadic relationship where it allows for three separate perspectives. You know what? I almost want to say that that's it. It's not polyamory. It's polyperspective. Ooh. Because in monogamous relationships, you're actually you're mono-perspective. And that's it right there. That is it. Oh, we're going to slam this down now. I'm going to take my, boom, here it is. That is it. When you enter a monogamous relationship, you are actually entering a mono perspective because you have one perspective between the two of you. And you completely strip away, you merge the two perspectives to create one. That's mono perspective relationship. I and he have a poly perspective relationship so that He has his perspective, I have my perspective, and we have a third perspective where we share the perspective and we come together, which also allows for me to have a perspective relationship over here with somebody else. And it's an understanding that this person and I am going to have a shared perspective over there, but we're not going to merge. Oh my God, I love this. Same thing with him over there. And the beautiful thing about this is we are sharing our perspective. So our perspective is now very unique to everybody else. There's nothing else like it. It is such a unique thing that suddenly that is why he and I are special, is because we have our own shared perspective that nobody else can touch. It is ours. And that is the special. That's the special. That is the special that's in our relationship. I had this conversation with him 2 years ago when we started getting into polyamory. And I was like, how are we special? I don't understand how we're different and how we're special. And it's something that we could not just figure out. Well, that's when we started coming up with rules. Well, how about if we just do this with each other? How about if we just do this with each other? Because we were looking for ways materialistically to define how we were special, how we were different. And with this, it's the perspective. It is 100% the perspective. So yes, I am introducing mono perspective and poly perspective relationships. That is what we're talking about here. Forget the polyamory. Forget the monogamy. It's poly perspective and mono perspective. I cannot wait to tell him about this. I'm very excited. All right, poly perspective relationships. That's what we're calling this. I have a name, poly perspective. All right, happiness is. Thank you so much. If you like shit like this, like, subscribe, follow, comment below. Let me know what part of the show resonated with you. And then donate to the garden, help the garden grow. And then if you look below, become a member. Membership is basically everybody going in and partaking in Journey into the Self, which is my integration workshop. And it is phenomenal when partnered with my Triadic Healing course. The Triadic Healing course itself is free. It's a DIY course. I do offer one-on-one consultation, but I only take 3 to 5 clients a month. You have to be really exceptional for me to want to take you on. Take a look at my itinerary. Go to www.anashealinggarden.org and click Getting Started. And it will walk you through what Triadic Healing is. It will walk you through everything to figure out if Triadic Healing is a good fit for you. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.